We've all heard the jokes about retirees in Florida, but when you look at the numbers, you see that Florida actually has a younger population than Maine's. In fact, Maine has the oldest population of any state in the U.S.
That poses a real challenge to the economy. How can it grow if we have a workforce that's too small and too old? It's an issue that has been studied rigorously by the nonpartisan Maine Development Foundation.
We sat down with its president, Yellow Light Breen, to talk about what the population numbers tell us and what Maine can do to create a brighter future.
I kind of distill it down to one simple thing. Right now there's about 3 working age Mainers for every Mainer over 65. And in 15 years, there'll be less than 2 of us working for every Mainer over 65.
That's a good number. Another number that is interesting to me, and because you can get kind of lost in the sea of statistics, but it's very straightforward. There are more deaths in Maine each year than there are births.
Absolutely. Now, conversely, Maine is starting to get our fair share of people moving in. Last year, about 7,000 net people moved into Maine. We're actually in the top half of states, believe it or not, in terms of net migration from other states. So something good is happening. People are realizing Maine has got some cool things going, and they're moving here.
Are the people moving to Maine fairly young, or are they retirees who are just going to contribute to some of these problems that we have with an aged population?
That's the great thing. Most of them are in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s. Most of them come with education, college degrees, etc. So they're prime working age with good skills.
Breen says because Maine's workforce is too small and too old, we're seeing businesses here hitting a ceiling in terms of their ability to grow. A prime example, restaurants that have to limit their hours in the summer because they can't hire enough workers.
And I think the real challenge is if a business doesn't think they can get the people, they won't expand here or move here. And that kind of really, undermines this perception of Maine as a place you can grow, a place that you can prosper.
People, especially in the summer, they go by restaurants, they see help wanted, help wanted, help wanted in so many windows. But there are a lot of other occupations that we don't necessarily think about that are having a hard time finding people. For instance, the logging industry in Maine, it doesn't have enough young people who want to become loggers, right?
Yeah, it's flipped around where as we stabilize that, and it was interesting, the big announcement in Portland the other day with the Rue Institute investing $100 million in some really cool cutting edge stuff in terms of data science, artificial intelligence. Huge transformative investment, and we can talk a little bit about why. Over the last couple of years, you know how much has been invested in Maine's forest products business? Almost $1 billion in terms of Rumford expanding, Old Town coming back online, several new sawmills, expansions all over the place. We've gone from 6 paper mill closings to can't find the people.
So what's being done to address these problems? One solution Breen points to is the Opportunity Maine tax credit, which helps young people retire student debt if they stay in Maine or move here.
The number of people using that tax credit has more than doubled in just the last 3 years. And by the way, about 2/3 of them have a STEM degree, science, technology, math, those high value, high growth occupations. So that's a best in the country program. We got to get the word out about it. The other 2 big pushes that are underway but really need to accelerate. One is the skilled trades. You not only need chemists, you need loggers. You need chemists for the really amazing over-the-horizon bioproducts that we can make, and you still got to have someone who can take it out of the woods.
The Maine Department of Economic and Community Development recently released an economic development strategy for the next 10 years. It focuses on 2 things needed to spur economic growth: talent and innovation. What happens if we don't do a very good job of meeting these challenges? Where will we be?
I think if we don't meet the challenge, we may be back to where we were in the 90s, where we saw a lot of out-migration in the first half of the 90s when Maine's economy was in the tank. And if people don't see the opportunity here, they'll vote with their feet, right? And an expanding business will move in order to attract innovation or talent, and people won't come here with the new ideas and new business.
If one is going to talk about the challenges that Maine faces as a result of an aging population, you've got to be forthright and look at the rural-urban divide, because all these challenges are even greater in the rural parts of the state. How is rural Maine going to do in handling these challenges, which are even more acute for that part of the state?
My concern, I think it's going to come back with some of the future, for instance, of these bioproducts and these amazing things that we can do in rural Maine. I think the challenge is that the community infrastructure, the healthcare, the schools, the transportation, the housing in those rural communities has been so hard hit. Can we keep that alive and up to snuff so that when the next business comes to Millinocket or to Ashland or to Machias, that there's still that infrastructure there to support them? So I think we've got to weather a very challenging transition here and make sure that that's the case.
For anyone interested in the future of the Maine economy and some of these demographic challenges, the Maine Economic Development Strategy is well worth reading. You'll find a link to it and to the Maine Development Foundation in the 207 section of our website and mobile app.
Coming